been a rough leadership meeting before this one, so we're running a little behind. We're glad you all could be here at the regularly scheduled board meeting. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to the roll call. Ms. Palacios.
Governing Board President, Dr. John Sparks.
Here.
Governing Board Clerk, Sherry Lowe. Here. Governing Board Member, Denise Reese. Here. Governing Board Member, Raul Rodriguez.
Here.
Governing Board Member, Tony Bruno.
Here.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. President Sparks, members of the board, after your review and consideration, I do recommend approval of the revised agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Sparks, members of the board and public. Members of the board, you have in your packet multiple documents in regards to minutes. First, you have the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the board way back on March 8th, the special meeting of the board on March 10th, the meeting notification about a gathering of the board at the Collaborative on February 20th, and the community conversation event on February 21st. And after your review and consideration, I do recommend approval at this time.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion about approval of the minutes? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to ratification of the vouchers. Ms. Huey.
Good evening. Tonight I recommend payroll vouchers ratification number 18 and 19, new payroll 23 for total payroll approval of $6,420,753.51. Additionally, I recommend expense vouchers 1071 through 1076, new expense vouchers 1085 through 1088, for total expense vouchers of $9,419,958.82, and a grand total of all ratification and new vouchers of $15,840,712.33.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation for ratification of the vouchers. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on the vouchers? Seeing no further discussion, all those in
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, thank you, President Sparks. One of my favorite items on the agenda because I get to share and brag about the many accomplishments of the district, but we always begin with the routine matter of enrollment. And as you can see, we are down 15 students from the prior meeting, which was about a month ago, if I remember correctly. An interesting observation, which might be worth noting when we speak a little bit later about some financial implications and our compensation plans, that we are still growing. However, like the rest of society with the multiple economic factors, inflation, supply chain issues, just all the different factors in the world, the growth has slowed for now. Although if you talk to our mayor and our town and economic development folks in the region, the future's still looking very bright and very promising and very growth oriented. So that's enrollment. I'd also like to tell you that our students continue to make Sahuarita shine in many ways. I begin with a young lady named Kiana Gardner, who recently participated in the FCCLA State Leadership. I believe that's the culinary arts oriented event, and qualified for the national competition. So that is extremely amazing. Over at Wrightson Ridge School, one of our teachers, Rebecca Orevic, got our students involved in the Arizona Desert Museum creative contest called Glasses in Flight. And one of our students, Haley Uria, was the first place winner of the entire thing with these beautiful sculptures that you see presented here. And once again, Sahuarita continues to shine. I know that we're all very acquainted with one of our esteemed colleagues, Dr. Sarah Dactyl. Dr. Dactyl is a speech-language pathologist and was the initiator and the brainchild of our, pardon the pun, our traumatic brain injury intervention program, the return to exertion, the support program for concussions, which has been recognized by Arizona School Board Association as a model program for effective intervention and support of students. Dr. Dactyl was recently recognized at the State Conference of the Arizona Speech and Hearing Association with the Sarah Turbick Outstanding Leadership Award, and as we know, it is very well deserved. She is a gem and a treasure and does an amazing job in service to our students. And finally, I'm pleased to tell you that the academic decathlon team from Walden Grove High School is going to nationals. If you've ever participated in academic decathlon when you were in school, I did at Flowing Hills High School. My team never made it out of the local competition, but these students are going to Dallas, Texas at the end of the month. And if you've ever looked at what they do, it's like Jeopardy at the highest level, plus. They're doing not only knowledge level stuff about literature and science and world events, they're also applying it through things like drama and speech and prose and debate. And it's just academic excellence at the highest level. And our students have earned their trip to Dallas. And I know that they'll represent us with great honor and excellence. We are very proud of them. And with that, President Sparks, I believe my report is concluded for this evening.
Thank you very much. I always appreciate those reports. Kind of lets us know of everything going on.
Yes, sir.
And I think it never fails every single month. There's a significant number of things on that list.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next item on the agenda. Item number 4, governing board reports. Ms. Lowell.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Reese.
I just want to say good luck to Sahuarita Indoor Percussion. They participate in their state competition this weekend. And then I also want to say good luck to our students, our staff, and our faculty as they work through state testing. That process started last week or the week before, and it's always kind of the beginning of the mad dash to the end of the year. So good luck, and I hope that everyone, good luck to everyone as we finish off strong for the year. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, I just want to welcome our newest school board member, Tony Bruno. I can't see you, but I just want to say welcome aboard. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. And I too also wanted to say welcome to Mr. Tony Bruno. I'm grateful for your willingness to serve and to meet the need as there was an opening on the board and being appointed by the county superintendent of schools. I also, I'll be traveling this weekend to the indoor drum competition, but I think it's also important the indoor guard program took second in their category in the state, did very well. And as we finish the year, I think this time of year, I always feel like it's almost a little tighter, a little busier, a little, because we're coming into that end stretch, and you can just tell everybody's running on all cylinders right now, trying to get it all done. So testing and just kind of finishing up and moving forward. So just grateful for all the effort of students and parents and teachers and administrators as we kind of finish off the year here strong and have what will likely be a tremendous end to the year. So that's all I wanted to share today. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is any call to the public. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to new business. Item A, new public online auction items. Dr. Elswitha.
Yes, sir, President Sparks, members of the board. Isn't it nice to hear the joyful noise of the students performing next door. That's what this place is all about. You have in your packets a list of items that have been deemed eligible for approval as disposable assets, which then allows them to be put up for public auction. If you're wondering, we have some old vacuum cleaners, I think some very old cafeteria tables, and at this time I would recommend your designation of these as disposable assets so that they can be auctioned off.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the public auction items? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say. Sorry, Mr. Bruno, I was a little fast there. I apologize. Thank you very much. And yes, I think the noise is good. Sometimes it's the dance crew and it vibrates the walls.
Yes, sir.
So we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, Dr. Reynolds, whether it's donated items.
Yes, sir, President Sparks, members of the board, as is often noted at our meetings, we are often the recipients of very generous people and organizations that donate things from money to supplies to materials. This is an opportunity where I think we kind of have a chance to reciprocate. As allowable under law and state board regulations, items that are no longer being used by the district can be donated to qualifying nonprofits under certain conditions. And I think this is a case where one of the schools has old, outdated, but good condition books that have been recommended for donation to the Country Fair White Elephant, which we know is a nonprofit that sells items, puts them to good use, and returns the dollars to a multitude of organizations in the community, including the Sahuarita Unified School District. So I would recommend your authorization of the noted items for donation.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? I have a feeling we'll get a percentage of that proceed back. I think they're very
Yes, sir.
gracious
Yes, sir.
every year. So no further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item, the Park Corporation Agreement, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir, President Sparks, members of the board and public. I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude to my colleague, Mr. Downs. The recommendation this evening is a reflection of a lot of work that's been done over the years of building relationships with our town, with the development community, and really establishing norms for how we can work together to impact the growth of the community in a positive way. You may remember with the approval of the Sahuarita Farms project, big project, that we worked through some terms to arrive at an outcome of the type of impact. I think it's $1,000 per rooftop on single family homes. And then the next conversation was about apartments or affordable housing or multi-housing units. And so Scott had laid the groundwork for how we're going to reasonably work consistent with general standards and reasonableness for apartment complexes. And as the board is perhaps aware, the town of Sahuarita Council recently approved an apartment community. I think it's in the area of La Cañada and Duval. And it's being managed by the Park Corporation. So this is an agreement with Park. And in a nutshell, what it dictates is that upon the completion and the receipt of certificates of occupancy for these dwelling units, for each dwelling unit, the corporation will provide the district $600. So that's the essence of the agreement. I think it's good. I think it's for the greater cause. And I think it's prudent. And I would recommend your approval of this agreement with the Park Corporation as presented.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just for clarification, so it's for each dwelling unit, then not per building that's going on to that site, correct?
Yes, ma'am. In order to simplify it, I would just say it this way, and Scott can be my check and balance. Every apartment unit is going to pay $600. Is that right, Scott?
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I do have to say I'm grateful at we see more of these cooperative donation agreements for occupancy and rooftops for school districts as developments go in. And I'm just grateful that there's a recognition that while a new subdivision starts or a housing unit starts, that it does have an impact on the local school entity. And I'm grateful that they stepped up on their own. There's no legal requirement or obligation, that this is voluntary by the park corporation, and to provide this as impact generating fees for the district. And I'm just grateful for that. I'm grateful that there's a recognition of that and a willingness to participate collaboratively of developing apartment units, which I think we need as a community pretty desperately, and also to support the district. So
I would echo what you said, President Sparks, and I know it's the sentiment of the board as well. And I think you said some points that are important. First of all, it's not legally required, but I think it is also a win-win validation of the fact that investing in good schools is an investment in the general prosperity of the community. And so we're grateful for that kind of spirit of collaboration.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much. Go on to the next item, which is facility rentals fees. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, so President Sparks, members of the board, thank you. This is a matter that comes up every year that's required to be taken care of. And I preface it just with a few kind of guiding light points. Number one is we believe, and I know that the board believes, that the schools belong to the community. They're community schools. So therefore, they are resources of the community. Our goal is to open them as much as we possibly can to support the greater community mission. Having said that, it is required by law that we've got to strive to reasonably capture the costs of accessing them to the public outside of the core school function. And we do that very creatively. We leverage those resources for the greater good. As you know, we have a great relationship with the town and their parks and recreations, and we've long worked to support those missions, the Little Leagues, the AYSOs, the footballs, the scouts, the church groups, the banks, all of them. And so we try within the allowable parameters of the law to keep these fees as affordable as possible. In fact, if the costs really are nominal, we charge a nominal fee, especially for nonprofit school organizations. So I'm pleased to share this evening that despite what we all know as rising costs in a lot of other different ways, we are able once again this year to recommend the approval of the facility rates with no additional increase from the current year.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'd like to ask, Ms. Huey, can you explain when these funds are collected from these rental fees, what account they go into? And this, I can answer it for myself, but I think you'll probably answer it more eloquently than me. Can you just explain where those funds go and what they're utilized for in the district, and just so everybody knows where these dollars go?
Absolutely. So they go into what's called a civic fund, and the amount of money that we collect goes to offset the cost of like cleaning, keeping our items maintained, facility requests. We don't really, because of the fees are so low and we try to keep them that way, like Dr. Valenzuela mentioned, it's a community schools. So we try to keep them as low as possible. We don't pay for anybody's salaries or anything like that. It goes basically to upkeep the property.
Thank you very much. I just wanted that to, sometimes when we vote on fees and things, and I think it's important to have that conversation in public, that these monies come in, go into the civic fund, and go back to support, repair, and maintain those exact facilities that people are using. They don't go into someone's salary or compensation.
That is correct.
Okay. And they do really good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, correct me, Scott, the group that's next door here, my guess is that the drama production group that's performing?
Correct. That's our own drama group performance.
It's our own drama group.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's all for good causes, and at the end of the day, it's all to help our students grow.
And I know it doesn't always cover the cost of like pool heaters and things that cost money sometimes. So, but it helps to offset those costs. Thank you very much. So I appreciate your time on that. And any other discussion or comments? Great. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is audit services. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir, President Sparks, members of the board. This is a request for qualifications for auditing services. You know, periodically for all of the basic services that we contract for outside, there's a requirement that we basically put them out on the street and shop them and just go through a very meticulous procedure to make sure that we're making selections that are not only in compliance with the law, but that really are advancing the best interests of the districts for whatever function. In this case, this is auditing services. As the board is very well aware, we are keepers of the public trust and the public dollar. So our funds, our budgets, our procedures in various dimensions related to operations and finance have to be scrutinized and scrubbed with a very fine-tooth comb, trust me. And trust Lizette even more. And so we just completed this process. Again, it's multifaceted. It has very specific steps and requirements. And this evening, I'm going to ask Lizette, Mrs. Huey, to talk about this process and to tell you about the recommended firm, which I will then present to you. Lizette.
Perfect. As you can see, the in your board packet, you have the auditing services that started on March 3rd. Basically, we go out for the request for proposal. We look at vendors who are currently registered with us, and we also advertise outside of our district as well. So if they're not current vendors, we also advertise so that we can, if there's potential interest. We did receive two, CWDL and Heinfeld and Meach. As you can see, there's a comprehensive process. It's, very extensive. It takes a lot of time. And I want to thank Mr. Villa, who's here in the audience today. We have to review all of the packets and the information and the request for qualifications very thoroughly. There is oversight also by the Auditor General's office. So I just want to make sure that they have to meet the requirements of the Auditor General as well. And if I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
And before you ask any questions, I would formally recommend your approval of the award of the RFQ presented to Heinfeld and Meach.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? See, I just want to make sure, and I just want to double check. This is the current vendor that we have been using.
That is correct. And a lot of it was basic on the fundamentals of the knowledge and then also the history of the organization itself, specifically to Arizona standards and not different states as well. So that took a lot of the points, if you will, their history, their experience, their professional development that they offer as well. There were various things that stood out in regards to the organization. And I forgot to mention Christina Martin was also an integral part of that review.
Much. I know when you fill the role of board president, and often when you fill the role of board clerk, you get a phone call that every year that their name pops up on the screen, and it's them saying, "Are you aware of any fraudulent activity?" And that's actually a line item, so they actually call you and ask you. So you get to talk to them every year. Well, any further discussion? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the item number 10, compensation plan, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Sparks and members of the board and public. I'd like to talk to you this evening about our compensation plan, and I'd like to begin with one of the board's strategic directions, specifically direction number 3, and that is that one, highly qualified staff. And basically what we say is that we want to be proactive, I would add intentional, and ongoing in our efforts to identify highly qualified professionals to invest in their continued growth and development and to recognize excellence. And so I would argue that the compensation plan that we put forward every year is a reflection of our intentionality and resolve to advance that objective. And so to that, I wanted to give a few points just for us to think about, kind of to frame the backdrop, to give you the context of the world in which we're currently operating in, which, as we know, is dynamic and rapidly changing in many, many ways. And just a few points. One, as we noticed, and this was the point I made about the enrollment, growth has slowed at this particular moment. After the pandemic, a lot of changes happened. We lost, I think, like 600 students. We're not alone. It was just part of that time. And that has an impact, but at the same time, over the course of, I can tell you, the last 18 years that I've been here, this has been among the fastest growing public school districts in the state of Arizona. I believe it will continue to be that. All indications, whether you're looking at town building permits, town new constructions, number of houses coming out of the ground, we will continue to do that. But we did slow down. I am pleased to say that this year we are back, and we've even crested above where we were right before the pandemic hit. So we're back on track, but we did hit a speed bump. And that, of course, has an impact on our budget. It just does. I also would remind us that when we took that hit, and I say this with a great deal of pride, this board, this organization, despite the hit, we never laid off one person. We kept people employed. We kept the mission going forward. We protected people's jobs. And we did that by strategically utilizing those one-time federal stimulus dollars that we received. Now, as that phases out, and we knew it, we have to absorb that. So just keep that in mind. We have to absorb that. Again, as I said, future projections are still very optimistic. I was looking around, I couldn't find it, but a little graph that I saw that Mayor Murphy sent me, it was the number of new permits that are being pulled. It's very much, the slope is positive, and it's a pretty steep positive slope. I sent Scott to Wrights and Ridge to take a picture, and if you take a picture pointing south, there's houses coming up, and they're not building those houses just to sit empty. The legislature is still in session. I say that just as a point of fact because we don't know what's going to come out of that. I can tell you that the only thing that they're required by law in terms of new money for us is to increase 2% for inflation. Okay, so kind of laying that backdrop, let's talk a little bit about goals. So our goal here is to provide a reasonable and a sustainable compensation increase to our 860 plus employee team members. We've always strived to do that. I'm really proud to say that in my tenure as superintendent, which is now completing 13 years, other than once or maybe twice, we've always given a raise to our employees. And I'm very proud of that. So what resources do we have? I mentioned that 2% inflation increase. That generates, we know that generates about 1.9 million. However, I don't get too charged up about that, even though it's kind of a lot of money, because basically that's money that we are absorbing again that we were using with that we were paying with the federal stimulus dollars. So we have to capture that just to keep things even. The other thing that we have, the only other major resource is that we are very conservative in how we manage our funds, and we always strive to keep, and I say this proudly, about close to a 10% carry forward if we can. And so carry forward is synonymous for savings account. Like in our own lives, we use our savings accounts for specific strategic reasons, and we have the opportunity to do that tonight. So tonight, the action plan is what I call a thoughtful risk. And the only reason I use the word risk is because I'm going to ask the board to consider investing dollars that are only sustainable based on growth. Okay? So a portion of the carry forward, not all of it, because we're always going to keep a conservative nest egg for emergencies. We come back in the fall, and if my predictions are right, we're going to grow even more than we conservatively are planning for. And so we might need a few teachers more to make sure that class sizes are within the reasonable realm of appropriateness for us. And we do have the anticipation of growth. Like I said, to assume that we are foreseeably going to grow is not an unreasonable, irrational thought. It is frankly the history of this district. It just is. So with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about what the recommendation is for this compensation plan, and then how we plan to pay for it. So the recommendation is a 4% compensation increase to all employee team members. The cost of that, and that's support staff, that is certified staff, that's our administrators. And one noted change that's actually not on it's kind of self-explanatory, but I wanted to just make a point for the board and public, is that we've always tried to balance how we provide whatever money we're going to invest in salaries for our employees. Sometimes we've done, in the last couple, at least 2 years, if not 3, we've done a flat increase. And that has benefits, to all, but it has more benefits to the more junior members of the faculty, our newer employee members, because if it's a flat amount for everybody, those that are making less get a higher percent increase. So it's helped us to increase our entry-level salary for our new teachers. It's helped us with recruitment. It's helped us to be able to give progressively more years of credit for people that we hire from the outside, which makes us more competitive. And so it was wise, but we've always tried to balance that. And at this point, we've made a decision to recommend a percent increase for this year, just because at the same time we're trying to recruit and support our younger people. We have dozens, if not hundreds, of our 860 plus employees that have been with us for a while, that have paid their dues, that have worked hard, that have been loyal. And at this point, to be able to advance them proportional with that time and the higher level of income that they've earned is a reasonable balancing act. It also, we believe, will help maybe provide a little bit of spread to some of the compression that's occurred among some of our employee groups. So that's 1.7 million. An additional $468 per person in our contribution to the ASBATE health insurance program. So currently, I think we're providing $5,350, and that will go up to, I think, $5,818. And healthcare is kind of an interesting national phenomenon. But I can tell you that what it does is it can't offset all the costs, but I can tell you that what it does, we have 4 plans. Most places only have 3, and we've kept them around mostly out of service and convenience to our employees, to give them choice. Some of them are frankly more affordable and more viable than others, really. But what this does for 3 out of the 4, it keeps the increase out of pocket for the employee, for like your teacher or any employee. It makes that out-of-pocket cost between like $4 or $6, maybe $7 per paycheck. It makes it more nominal. There is one plan that I will tell the board we're going to look at. We're continuing to offer it. A lot of districts don't even offer it anymore because it's just very, very expensive. Frankly, of the increases that we incurred this year, at least half of them were from that plan. It's not a very efficient plan. Is that fair, Lizette? So, but we're going to offer it. But we're going to say we're going to give as much as we can. And for most plans, it's a very nominal increase. For that one, it's like a $25 per paycheck increase. It's like a 15% or 18% increase. And if people want to choose it, they still choose it. For a lot of districts, our second program is the best, the top program at a lot of other districts. What do they call it? A plus up or a build up? Yeah, right? Buy up program. So that's that increase. The cost of that is $176,000. I'm also pleased to share that this year we're able to add $300 to the performance plan, and that's Proposition 301. It's a moving target in that it's based on the generation of sales tax revenue in the state. The good news is that the economy is continuing to churn out that sales tax revenue to the point that we're able to add an additional $300 to the performance pay plan. And I believe that what I heard from Mr. Downs is that that'll take that amount from $2,700 to $3,000 on the Prop 301 plan, which now this only applies to teachers, not because that's our decision, but that's the way the statute is written. And let's see what else. Oh, we have the, oh, it's a little bit off there, but that's okay. It's just the total, I'm sorry, back up. There's an increase to the Arizona State Retirement System. It's going, this is the state pension system, and the employee has to pay a certain amount, and then we have to match that amount. It's going up nominally. It's actually going up 0.12%. So that's not going to cost $2 million. What I'm trying to say is that the total cost of this entire package to us is approximately, and I'm talking in round numbers, but basically it's pretty close. It's about $2 million. And I would say, before I turn the page and make the recommendation, that $2 million is basically coming out of that carry forward. We do that with great care. It's money that, again, if we don't recover it in a reasonable time frame, and to me, reasonable time frame is like a couple of years, then we're going to have to, we would, because I'm not going to say we will, because I really don't believe that's going to happen, but we would have to be looking at downsizing the budget, right? I don't believe that that's going to happen. So I'm confident in the fact that we're budgeting very conservatively and that we will continue to grow and recover that. For those that have been on the board for a while, you might remember the meeting several years ago. Actually, it was one of the first meetings of your former board member, Kevin Opalka, where we were looking at this, and he made a note that we had about $2.7 million that we were carrying forward in the name of supporting our employees. And the reason that it never really was an issue, it never really was pointed out, is because our growth was covering that over time, and we were able to continue going until we did extinguish that debt. And that's the plan here, is that over the course of time, hopefully lesser than more, but that we'll be able to manage it, we'll be able to keep our staffing levels pending the growth trajectory, and that we'll be able to bring that deficit back to zero once again. So it's a strategic move. I'm being honest that it is a risk, but it's a thoughtful, planned risk that I think is founded in reasonable information and projections. And like the next slide says, I believe this, and I've gotten to know all of you, and I believe you do as well, that the greatest investment that we make is that which we invest in people. And when you think about those kids going to nationals, those sports teams succeeding excellence, those kids going to amazing law schools and professional schools and colleges and forward asset tech programs, all the things that our kids do is because, is to the greatest extent, it's because of the people who invest in helping shape their lives and help them grow. So with that, I would recommend approval of the compensation program for the year 23-24 as presented at this time, and pending your approval, that will be a signal to Mr. Downs, Mrs. Huey, Mr. Heinzelman to start the process of methodically distributing the contracts and wage notices.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If you don't have any discussion, I just want to say I'm grateful that that we took efforts this time to expand that wage compression. I think it's been, as I've watched the budget over the last couple of years, salaries and wages, my biggest concern is we've done, I think, a relatively good job of trying to keep our entry-level employees, especially our teachers, to keep them competitive. And I believe we are the most competitive in the county and probably in Southern Arizona. But that also compresses against our top people. And I know flat does that when we give flat amounts. So I'm just grateful that we're taking a look at that to kind of expand that back out, because that keeps our pool of employees moving up, if you want to say that. It gives them a reason to strive to become assistant principals and become principals and become administrators as they move up in their career path. That distance is important. So I'm grateful for that. And that's all I really wanted to comment, I think. And I've been here when we did the original and then extinguished the original kind of risk. But if I roll down the street, I see a lot of houses, and while not all of them are going to have kids, we are likely going to continue to grow as we've expected in the past, but reasonable risk. So, thank you. That's all I had. Any comments? Any other discussions, questions? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the announcement of the Anza Trail Assistant Principal position, Dr. Valenswit. And I think this is exciting for me because all of my children went through Anza Trail. So
Yes, sir.
administrative change there is fun.
And it's exciting to me as well, because anytime we make an investment in a new person to join the organization, it's a statement of goodwill. It's a statement of trust that they're joining our shared mission of excellence and student success and building a community. And so we don't take it lightly. As usual, our senior team, Ms. Huey, Mr. Bonner, Mr. Downs, led a comprehensive process. I see Principal Robinson is here, and it was the standard process with students and parents and administrators and district, and it was a large committee. I think it was about a dozen. And they put the candidates through their paces, and I say that with full respect and as a compliment to the process. They had a number of candidates. I believe we interviewed 5, and by a very strong consensus, I received the nomination and the recommendation of Ariana Van Horbeck. Okay, yes. And Ariana, as I met with her, so I interviewed with her myself. We had a nice, very good, lengthy conversation. I think she's going to be a great addition to our team. She actually is an Arizonan, but has moved around. She came to the University of Arizona, where she earned her bachelor's degree, which is awesome for a Maricopa County Valley person to come down here to U of A. I'd like to say it's a smart move, but that's just my own bias. So good first step. And she started her education career about 20 years ago, I believe, in the Phoenix area. And then got married. I think you saw some of her children around here. And went around. I went to Ohio. I think taught in San Jose, California. Had a family, and then came back, and more in recent years resumed her professional education career right next door here in the Continental Elementary School District, where she was a teacher, multiple different grades, but also like all leaders, took on a lot of other duties besides that, including sponsoring clubs, audiovisual club. She led safety and technology, staff development committees and planning committees, was a member of the PTA or PTO or PTC, however they call it, and was really just one of those people who was just go-getter, believes in the cause, believes in the work, and likes working with others to get things done. More recently, which is to say this year, she was completing her master's degree in educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. And so she left to go do a full-fledged internship in the Tanque Verde School District, where she worked, and they liked her so much, they kept her for a semester where she was doing, I think they called her job support services coordinator, student support coordinator, but she was doing a lot of the quasi-administrative roles teacher assistant, pre-intervention, pre-referral program, special education support, assessment support, cognitive coaching of teachers, instructional leadership of teachers, and saw this opening and said she felt compelled to come back to her community. She lives here in the community. Her family's here, and I think will be just an amazing fit. And I know, knowing the people that were on that committee that made this strong recommendation, I just know that she's going to be a great addition to the team. So I am pleased this evening to recommend Ariana Vanderbeck to the appointment of assistant principal at Anza Trail School for the 23-24 school year.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion in a second. Any discussion?
Bro.
No comments, question, or discussion? Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much and welcome to the district.
I just want to take a brief moment to thank the board and Dr. Valenzuela, as well as all the amazing people who were on the interview panel. I am so honored to be part of the Sahuarita Unified School District, and I'm really looking forward to working with Ms. Robinson and Mr. Moreno to serve the Anza Trail community, the teachers, the staff, the students, and their families. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir,
Oh,
President.
sorry.
What's that?
Thank you. Oh, we'll pause for a second. Well, thank you, Ms. Palacios, for reminding us. Historically, we have, after that little speech, you have to shake everybody's hand. And
So
we do
we
have a
want
hand
to-
sanitizer if you'd like.
And we do have hand sanitizer. Welcome to the family. It is going around. No pants.
Thank you very much. And I'm grateful that sometimes we bring things back slowly over time.
Yes, sir, we do.
No longer have the square
It was
tables.
slowly
We
but
now have round
surely.
tables. We're shaking hands again. So I appreciate that.
It was
Today's a
time.
good day, President.
Today is a good day. Thank you. And we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, consent agenda, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. President Sparks and members of the board, you have in your packet a list of items that are routine and can be considered in one comprehensive motion at a time. And at this time, I do recommend approval of the consent agenda in its entirety.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Any of the board members wish to bring forward a possible future agenda consideration? Okay. We'll establish the next board meeting, which will be April 26th here in this building at the standard time of 6 p.m. And now I believe we do have an executive session. And do you have the paperwork to read that, Ms. Lowell? We just need a roll call vote to go in, correct?
There it is.
Thank you.
So discussion or consideration of records exempt by law, that one, from public inspection, including the receipt and discussion of information or testimony that is specifically required to be maintained as confidential by state or federal law.
We need a motion to move into executive session.
And then we need a motion to move into executive session. Roll call vote?
Yep.
Dr. Sparks?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Which is he, are we? Mr. Bruno on? Okay, that's fine. Mr. Rodriguez? Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Yes.
We will now move into executive session, and we appreciate all of you being here this evening for the meeting. And we will take a quick 5-minute break before we start the executive session to allow everybody to clear. And if you need to use the restroom or get a drink, but please be back here in 5 minutes. It's now 6:56, so it's 7:01-ish. Thank you very much.
Go ahead and pass these.